Hello and welcome to Digital Wood Carver. My name is Laney Shaughnessy, and in this video I'm going to walk you through how to unpack and set up your DWC2440 3-axis or 4-axis standard package. Now when you receive your 2440, it's going to be crated, so the first thing that we need to do is remove the boxing and the crating material. Once we do that, then we're going to want to inspect our components to make sure that we have everything that came with our kit. We will see what's included in just a few minutes, but first let's go ahead and get the unit unboxed. All right, once we remove the boxing and crating material, we're ready to go ahead and check out all of our components and get the assembly underway. If you've ordered the DWC2440 benchtop package, then you will not receive a stand as shown in this video. If you received or ordered a DWC 3-axis standard package or 4-axis standard package, you will have a stand, and the stand is what needs to be assembled with this unit. The unit itself is plug and play ready, and you'll see that in just a few moments. And if you did order the DWC2440 4-axis standard package, you will have a 4th axis attachment as well as its mounting brackets. We'll get started with the stand assembly first, but before we do, let's go ahead and make sure that we have all of our other components. We should have our main control box for the unit, as well as our dust collection system, and a box with our other accessories such as clamps, dust skirts, collets, and things like that. We'll get into that box of accessories in just a few minutes. Okay, now let's take a look inside the contents box of our accessories, and let's see what's inside of here. When you open the box up, you should have a quick start guide. This quick start guide is a basic 1, 2, 3 step to get your control box connected, as well as where to go to get your software downloaded if you have not done that already. So this is a handy little guide to kind of tell you your machine layout and everything. Now also in the accessory box, you will have a 60-degree V-bit or a free router bit that comes with the unit. Generally it is the white side 1541 60-degree V-bit, but it could be a different model. But you'll get 1 bit with your machine and any other bits that you might have purchased as well with your order. You'll also have a set of dust skirts. These are for your dust collection system, and they will wrap around the vacuum housing of your router. We have a set of clamps. You'll get 2 wooden clamps. These are your hold downs, and if you need any additional hold downs, they're very simple to DIY and make, but you can also order a set from digitalwoodcarver.com and our website. You will also have a set of wrenches for changing your router bits. You will have a set of collets. Generally you'll have a 1/4-inch collet and a 1/2-inch collet with your kit, so you'll have those 2 collets. You will have a USB cable. This is what we will connect from our computer to our control box. And you will have a USB drive that will have your Planet-CNC TNG motion controller software and your license code. This flash drive may be inside of your box, or sometimes the guys at the warehouse will zip tie this to the power cord of the control box. So it's going to be in one of those 2 locations, but either way you will get a flash drive with your software for your controller software. That is it for the accessories that will come with your unit. Okay, well, the stand is the first thing to assemble, so we'll get right into that. Make sure that you have all your stand components laid out and your bag of hardware, and we'll continue from there. All right, now that we have our 2440 uncrated, we're ready to go ahead and start the assembly. And the first phase of the assembly is assembling the stand for our DWC2440 3-axis standard package and our DWC2440 4-axis standard package. Both of those packages come with a stand, and the stand is the only thing that needs assembled. The units themselves are fully assembled from the factory, so that's plug and play ready. Now, when it comes to assembling the stand, we want to start with the leg assemblies first. Now, I have all the components laid out for a single leg assembly. We have 2 sets of these that we need to put together, and then we'll put our cross members on to finalize the assembly. All right, so I have a single leg assembly here, and for our leg assembly, we're going to need one upper bracket. So it'll look like this here. Now, the side with the 8 holes, that is the top side of the bracket, we need one lower bracket. Okay. And then we need a left and right leg. Those leg assemblies look like this here. Okay. So one left and right leg. And for the assembly, for the hardware, we're going to need 12 of our 5/16/18 by 3/4 bolts. We're going to need 12 5/16/18 nuts. We're going to need 24 washers. We're going to need 2 of our leveling feet and 4 3/8 nuts. We're going to need 2 of our foot brackets, our left foot bracket and a right foot bracket, and then we'll need a 1/2-inch wrench or 2 1/2-inch wrenches or a drill and wrench with a socket, and I'm going to use a drill and wrench with a socket. All right, let's go ahead and start. Now, for every nut and bolt assembly, you're going to use 2 washers. We're going to put 1 washer on through the frame, 2nd washer, and then a nut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get started by putting 1 washer on each bolt. Okay, at the top of the frame, we're going to need 2 bolts on each side. So we'll go ahead and put those 2 in. Once we have those bolts in place, we need to place a washer on each one of them. And then our nut. Now we're just going to finger tighten them for now until we get all of the hardware in, and then we'll go back and secure them completely. All right, for our lower bracket, same thing. We're going to have 2 of our bolts. Once we have those bolts in place, we'll go ahead and put a washer on each one of those, followed by a nut. Okay, so now that we have all of the bolts in the upper and lower brackets, we'll go ahead and put our foot bolts in for our foot brackets. Now with the foot brackets, the bracket will be an L shape, so you can see that L shape there. The right bracket will be facing to the right, and the left bracket will be facing to the left. And we'll go ahead and secure that as well. Make sure to put washers on both sides of the assembly before you put your nuts on. Okay, now when it comes to the feet, we want to make sure that the feet are all the way up against the frame before we secure it down. I'm going to use a 1/2-inch socket and a 1/2-inch wrench to secure this. Okay, once we have a leg assembly complete, we're going to take our leveling feet and we're going to slide the foot in through the hole and put on the nut. And you want to make sure that you have one nut on already before you put it into the foothold. Now we're going to screw them all the way in, but we're just going to make them hand tight for now. Once we get the unit fully assembled, then we'll go through and make sure that all 4 feet are level and the unit is level across, and then we will do our final securing of those foot bolts. All right, this completes the leg assembly. You want to go ahead and repeat these exact steps for the other end of the unit, and then we'll move on to putting our cross braces in. Okay, so now that we have our 2 leg assemblies completed, all of the nuts and bolts are secured and tightened down. We've got our leveling feet in each of the sets of legs. Now we're going to have 2 lower brackets, one for each side of the frame. And we're going to have 2 upper brackets, okay? One for each side of the frame. We're going to start with one leg at a time, and we're going to get the lower brackets in, and they'll act like kickstands to help us with the other side. So let's go ahead and do that now. With the lower bracket, we want the L facing down towards the feet. It'll go right here in the middle where our 2 holes are, and we'll go ahead and secure that in place. Remember to put a washer on before you put the bolt through. Make sure you have a washer on the outside and on the inside before you put the nut on. Okay, just secure them hand tight now. That will support the brace, and we'll use that as a kickstand in a moment, but let's go ahead and do the other side the same way. Again, we want the L facing towards the feet. Okay, once we have the lower brackets in, we can go ahead and stand up the leg assembly, and we can lower it down, and the brackets will act like a kickstand holding that leg assembly up while we work on the other end. Okay, once the lower bracket is in, then we need to go ahead and put in the upper bracket. And the upper bracket, the side with the L goes to the inside. Okay, so we want the profile down. And then we'll repeat for the other side. Okay, once we have the frame together, none of the bolts for the side members are secured yet. We're going to be squaring the frame up, but before we square the frame up, we want to go ahead and put our shelf boards in. So we'll take our two shelf boards. And we'll get them positioned in because we're going to use these as our platform while we square up with a speed square and tighten down all the nuts and bolts. All right, with a speed square or shop square, we're going to bring that in and get the legs squared up. Once it's squared up, we can go ahead and secure the bolts. We're going to repeat this on all four sides of the frame. And once everything's squared up, then we're going to just make sure that our feet, there's no twist in the frame, our leveling feet are adjusted properly, and then we're going to finalize the assembly of the stand by securing the bolts for the leveling feet. All right, once the entire stand is squared up, we want to go ahead on our shelf boards. We want to make sure our seam is nice and tight and our faces of our shelf board are nice and flush. And we want to secure from underneath with the number 8 wood screws that are provided. So a Phillips screw tip in our screw gun, and we'll go ahead and get under there and get that secured down. Okay, once our stand is fully secured and our shelf boards are secured to the stand, we are ready now to take the DWC2440 and set it on top of our stand and then secure it to the stand. Now for this step, I do strongly encourage that you use a helper. It's much easier for two people to set the unit on the stand, get it squared up on the frame, and then secure it into place. All right, once we set the unit on the frame, we'll need to secure it to the frame with our feet clamps, our 1-inch quarter 20 bolts, washers, and nuts. Now the C-clamps will slide right over the foot and line up with the holes. On your quarter 20 nut and bolt, you're going to have 2 washers on the assembly. You're going to put 1 washer on, then you're going to slide that bolt into the hole. You're going to follow that up with another washer and the nut. You will do that for each nut and bolt assembly. There should be 2 washers for each nut and bolt assembly. Okay, once you get all 4 feet secured, that will complete this step and you're ready to move on to the next. All right, once we have the unit mounted to the stand and secured, we can go ahead and place our control box on the shelf and get it all connected. You want the control box on the center of the shelf. From the length of the frame, we want it right at the center, and we want it towards the front. This way, when we connect our motor access cables and our router and things, that when that gantry is moving back and forth, we have plenty of slack in our wires to move freely with it. Now, the control box will plug into a regular 110 outlet. The only time that a 220 outlet would be required is if you have a 220 water-cooled spindle. But we'll connect to a regular 110 outlet in your shop or home. And from there, once we've got it plugged in, we can go ahead and get everything else connected. Okay, so coming out of the front of the control box, we have our Z zeroing tool. This is our little touch plate and our gator grounding clip. Now, when you're not utilizing the Z touch tool to set your Z axis, we want to make sure that we store it in a safe place, and we're going to store it in a T-track at the top of the table. And the gator clip will clip to the front left leg of the table. Let's go ahead and get that connected now. Okay, so when we're not utilizing the touch plate, the safest place to keep it is in the T-track. If you tilt it just a little bit, it'll slide right into that first T-track there, right at the front of the table. And our gator grounding clip, we're going to clip to the front leg of the table on the threads of that elevator bolt. And once everything is hooked up, we can go through and do some cable management with some zip ties and things. Okay, also coming out of the front of the control box, you're going to have your jog pendant. The jog pendant is an axis control for manually maneuvering your X, Y, and Z axis. You will have a speed dial here for slowing down and speeding up the jog speed, as well as your X, Y, and Z movements. So we'll want to go ahead and store this in a safe place when we're not using it, usually on the shelf, or a lot of times you can take a little bit of a magnetic adhesive strip and have it mounted right to your stand when you're not using it. Let's go ahead and set that aside, and we'll go ahead and get the axis cables installed. All right, so on the front of the control box, we have our axis connection ports here from left to right, X, Y, and Z. Then we have our emergency stop and our power button. We also have two outlets here where our router and vacuum will plug in. So from left to right, X, Y, Z, and our axis cables here are labeled X, Y, and Z, so you'll find a white label on them. So we'll go ahead and get those connected. And you want to, when you connect them, you want to tighten down the lock ring. So we'll put on the Y. And then we'll connect our Z. Now the lock rings do not need to be over tightened, just finger tight on those, and you'll be good. Now if you have a router with your control box, your router cable will plug into either one of the two outlets, and your vacuum system will plug into the other outlet. Now if your unit came with a water-cooled spindle, the outlets will be labeled, one of the outlets will be labeled water pump. It'll be constantly hot, and the water pump for your cooling system of your water-cooled spindle will plug into there, and then your vacuum will plug into the other outlet. All right, and the last cable we need to plug in is our USB cable from the control box. We'll plug it in, it goes over here on the left side of the control box, and the other end will plug into our computer. Once we connect that, that will complete all the connections minus the vacuum. We need to put the vacuum in. But if you have a fourth axis unit, a 2440 4-axis standard package, there will be an additional port under the Z axis here where you'll plug that fourth axis into. This is a 3-axis control box, so we have X, Y, and Z. All right, with that connection made, we just need to plug the other end into our computer, get our software loaded. If we have not loaded the Planet-CNC TNG motion controller software on our computer, we'll go ahead and get that loaded. There is a video in our series on how to install the Planet-CNC software and set it up. If you have not seen that video, you can find that video at the Digital Wood Carver website under the owner's menu. All right, once we do that, we are all set to go and ready to begin carving. If you'd like to do any cable management, feel free to do so as far as zip tying any wires. Just make sure on your access cable wires that they can move freely back and forth without any hang-ups or anything, and don't zip tie them to the frame or anything. We need those cables to be able to move freely in that back and forth motion when that x-axis is traveling. All right, with that, let's go ahead and move on to the next step. Okay, so the final step here is to connect our vacuum system that came with the unit. We're going to plug that into the front of the control box. Now again, if you have a water-cooled spindle, one of your outlets will be labeled water pump. This is where you'll plug in the water pump from the cooling system, and the other outlet will be for the vacuum. Once the vacuum is plugged in, we need to take the other end of the vacuum and we're going to connect it right here to the gantry and plug it right in, and we are all set. Well, that completes the unpacking and assembly of your DWC2440 unit. Now, if you ordered the 4th axis standard package, you'll need to attach the mounting brackets for that 4th axis to the frame, and then attach the 4th axis unit itself and get it level to the table. There's a video for you for that, and you'll find the link to that video down in the description of this video, or you'll also find it on our website at digitalwoodcarver.com under the Owners Getting Started menu. Now, if you ordered the DWC2440 benchtop package or 3-axis standard package, this is the final step for the unpacking and assembly for you. So you're ready to go on to the next videos of how to design your first project in your Vectric software, and then how to bring that design over to the Planet-CNC TNG motion controller software and carve your first project on your new unit. I hope you found this video helpful, but if you get stuck or you need assistance along the way, you can absolutely contact us at 833-392-2621. Extension number 2 is our service extension. We'll be happy to help you any way we can. Well, folks, I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next video. Be sure to check out how to design your first project and how to carve your first project to get you going. And until next time, I'm Laney Shaughnessy. I'll see you soon.